G'day and welcome to episode 13 of Travel Pointers, the podcast for Australian frequent flyers. It's the 2nd of June 2025 and I'm Matt Graham, the editor of AFF.
And I'm Wilson McTaggart, a writer at AFF and part of the Frequent Flyer Concierge team.
In this episode, we're going to talk about Avios, the valuable points used by 7 different frequent flyer programs, what they are, how you can earn them in Australia, and most importantly, how to use them for maximum benefit. But first, let's have a look at some of the recent news from the last few weeks in airlines and loyalty programs. And firstly, 2 airlines have announced new international routes from Adelaide Airport, which will operate over the coming summer period as seasonal flights. There's Cathay Pacific to Hong Kong and Qantas to Auckland from Adelaide. And that Qantas announcement comes as well after Qantas has just opened its new domestic business lounge in Adelaide Airport. As well as seating for around 190 people, a bar, a buffet and barista coffee, the highlight of this lounge is the market kitchen with special plated dishes inspired by the Adelaide Central Markets. Can't wait to check that out. Qantas is also soon going to finally upgrade its international business lounge in Sydney. Now, this refurbishment is one that Qantas first announced in 2018, and it was originally scheduled to be finished in 2019, so it's certainly not before time. But the refurbishment is now due to commence in the second half of 2025, probably in around October, and it will take around a year. In the meantime, Qantas will open a temporary lounge in a space that's currently used as a crew briefing room near gates 31 and 32 in the Sydney International Terminal. Qantas has operated its last flight to Lord Howe Island, with Skytrans now having taken over the route. And Skytrans, which is a regional airline based in Queensland, has bought QantasLink's 3-8-200s, which were Qantas's only planes that were capable of landing and taking off at Lord Howe Island, which we covered in a previous episode of Travel Pointers. Westpac will be changing the earn rates on its Altitude Rewards credit cards from the 1st of August 2025, including its Altitude Qantas and Altitude Velocity cards. Unfortunately, a part of this change also includes new caps on the amount of points that can be earned each month at the full rates. Meanwhile, the Priority Pass benefit on the City Prestige card will change from unlimited annual visits to 15 per year from the same date, unfortunately. And it comes after ANZ recently increased the amount of time that previous customers need to wait before being eligible for a new sign-up bonus offer on an ANZ credit card to 2 years after cancelling their last card. Well, Avios is the loyalty program currency of 7 different airlines, and Avios are now both more useful and also easier than ever before to earn in Australia. So we thought it would be worth taking a bit of time in this episode to explain exactly what Avios are, how to use them, and why you would use them, what you can use them for. Well, Avios is the loyalty program currency of 7 different airlines, and they're both now more useful and also easier than ever before to earn in Australia. So we thought it would be worth taking a bit of time in this episode to explain exactly what Avios are, how to use them, and also why you would use them. Now, the frequent flyer programs that use Avios, as I said, there's 7 of them. There's British Airways Club, Qatar Airways Privilege Club, Iberia Plus, Finnair Plus, Aer Lingus Air Club, Vueling Club, and Logan Air Loyalty. And 4 of those airlines, you might have noticed, are also in the One World Alliance. Now, you can transfer, if you have Avios in any account with any one of those 7 airlines, you can actually transfer them as well to your own account with another one of the airlines that uses Avios. In all cases, it's a one-to-one transfer. Now, there are a few quirks about this. Like, for example, you need to make sure that the account names match exactly, and you can't actually transfer directly from every one of the frequent flyer programs that uses Avios to every other program. In some cases, the only partner that you can transfer to is British Airways Club. However, you can transfer to and from British Airways Club from all of the other different programs that use Avios. And so that means, like, if, for example, you wanted to transfer Qatar Airways Privilege Club Avios into Finnair Plus Avios, you could just transfer at a one-to-one rate from your Qatar Airways Privilege Club account into your own British Airways Club account, and then from British Airways Club to Finnair Plus and vice versa. So it's then there's a few other quirks and you know, like, things to be aware of. I will link in the show notes for this episode to an article on the Australian Frequent Flyer website, which contains like a pretty much a summary and an explanation of how this all works, transferring Avios between accounts. But the upshot is, if you have Avios in one account, you can basically use them as if they're Avios in any of the 7 accounts just by transferring between as you need to. Why would you transfer between different accounts? Well, the way that you can use Avios with each of the different programs is not exactly the same. So, like I said before, like Qatar Airways Privilege Club, Finnair Plus, British Airways Club, and Iberia Plus are all One World airline programs, which means that if you have Avios with any of those four airlines, you can use them to redeem points for or those Avios for a flight on any One World airline. But those programs also have their own unique partners, and they're not all the same. And there's also the three programs of Whaling Club, Aer Lingus Air Club, and Logan Air Loyalty, which are programs of non-One World airlines. So, for example, if you have Logan Air Loyalty Avios, the only way you can actually use those Avios is to redeem for Logan Air Flights, which is a Scottish regional airline, and in fact, it's the only one of those 7 Avios programs where you can redeem for Logan Air flights. Wilson, have you thought about redeeming Avios on Logan Air?
I have. They have some pretty unique flights, to say the least. I think they have a landing on a beach runway is one of the flights. I can't remember the route, and a bunch of others. So I think it's a pretty cool partnership, to say the least.
Yeah, they have some unique routes, and I mean, some of those flights are a little bit expensive. So using Avios, especially at the same short haul rates as you would redeem from British Airways, for example, is actually pretty cool. And I mean, if we have a look at the different airlines that you can redeem Avios on, like as well as the One World airlines, if you're using one of those 4 One World programs, like you can use British Airways Avios to book flights on Aer Lingus, which can be useful for transatlantic flights in particular. All of the One World airlines also partner with LATAM, and Qatar Airways in particular has some quite unique partners. Like you can redeem Qatar Privilege Club Avios on Bangkok Airways, Rwandair, Garuda Indonesia, Airlink, JetBlue, Oman Air, Middle East Airlines, and even Virgin Australia, which is pretty cool because you can redeem Avios on both Qantas and Virgin Australia. Booking through Qatar, you can redeem then on Virgin Australia. And there's Iberia as well has a few other unique partners like Avianca, Vueling, as well Level and Binter, which is an airline based in the Canary Islands, I believe, regional airline over there. So a bit niche, but if you wanted to fly to the Canary Islands, I mean, it's an option. But there's a few catches, like for example, with Avianca redemptions, I think it needs to be part of a Iberia itinerary, Wilson.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not really published on the Iberia website, but multiple people on a few different forums have reported that they were unable to use their Iberia Avios for Avianca flights.
Yeah. Now, of course, if you want to redeem Avios on a One World airline, such as Qantas, for example, is the number of Avios that you need the same regardless of which program you use to redeem those Avios?
Not necessarily, Matt. It depends on the program. British Airways, Iberia, and Qatar don't actually publish any official award charts for their own flights and also their partners. So technically speaking, they can change the Avios required for any flight whenever they want and would be none the wiser. Finnair Plus does publish award charts for both its own flights and partner airlines. They use different pricing as well to, for example, British Airways Club. So it's worth shopping around if you have Avios to see where you can get the best deal, even within the Avios ecosystem.
Yeah, it's kind of a fascinating, and kind of unique setup where you can, simply transfer your Avios into a different program and book exactly the same flight at a cheaper rate, or potentially more expensive, depending on the route and the airline and everything that you want to book, and even sometimes the carrier charges are different between the different programs. So you'd think for a currency that you can transfer at a 1-to-1 rate between programs, the pricing would be identical, but it's not the case.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of an oversight, but hey, we're not complaining over here at least.
No, definitely not. There's definitely some good opportunities that brings as well. Wilson, what are some of the best uses of Avios in terms of some, more unique redemptions other than Logan Air, of course, and also some of the best value redemptions, like the sweet spots?
Yeah, my favorite sweet spot is using Qatar Airways Privilege Club Avios for Qatar Airways flights, especially from Australia all the way to Europe. It's obviously a very popular route. Qatar Airways business class we've talked about it before on the podcast. It's fantastic. Using Qatar Airways Privilege Club Avios, you get first access to Qatar Airways seats about 360 days out. So that's before British Airways and Virgin Australia, for example, gets access to Qatar Airways reward seats. There's really good pricing, especially for business class. It's only 90,000 Avios from Australia to Europe in business class on Qatar Airways. I think that's actually the best, like, absolute pricing from Australia to Europe
Ooh,
using miles.
The only other one that I can think of is a G in miles and bonus, which I think is 75,000 maybe a G in miles from Australia or New Zealand to Europe, which you can now book on Emirates, by the way, at that rate, which is extremely good value. But I'd be hard pressed to think of any others. 90,000 Avios is extremely good value.
Yeah, and you also get very low surcharges as well. All things considered, it's not like with Emirates, you get slugged with the about 2,000 Australian dollars one way.
Yes, you do in business class. Yep.
Yeah. Qatar Airways does also offer Flexi Awards. So these are awards priced at double the normal saver price, but you do get access to more availability beyond what's available to partner programs. So if you are, I guess, a points or miles millionaire, you have a bunch of miles to burn, it means you can get a lot more award seats, and it's still a lot better value than paying cash for Qatar Airways.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you've got American Express membership rewards points, for example, and you wanted to get to Europe in business class at a peak time, maybe you want multiple seats. I mean, paying even double the number of Avios for a flexi seat, which might be available where other options on other airlines are not available, like 180,000 Avios even for a peak period business class seat to Europe is not terrible. I mean, it's you can transfer it 2-to-1 from Amex to Avios as well. That's comparable with transferring from Amex to KrisFlyer and booking on Singapore Airlines. And of course, you get the great Qatar Airways product as well. So, yeah, that can be a handy tip. What other redemptions with Privilege Club can be particularly useful for Australians?
I really like their new partnership with Garuda Indonesia. Obviously, Indonesia is another very popular destination, and it's quite cheap to fly from Australia to Bali. Garuda fly from Sydney and Melbourne. It's 16,000 Avios in economy class and 40,000 in business class, I believe.
Yeah, 40,000 sounds right. Something like that. Yep.
Yeah, which is very good value.
And good availability too.
Yeah, exactly. SkyTeam airlines in general are a bit underserved by Australian frequent flyer programs, so having an option to redeem on SkyTeam airlines such as Garuda Indonesia means that there's generally good availability.
Mm.
Other partners that Qatar offers beyond Oneworld Airlines is something like JetBlue for transatlantic flights. It's a pretty hard product to book, both in economy and their well-known JetBlue Mint, which is a nice lie flight product. You can also book Airlink, which is a South African-based regional carrier. I believe they only fly Embraer E190s and other smaller aircraft.
Yeah, something like that. And they have a lot of them flying sort of regional routes or sort of like short-haul international routes as well, like based in South Africa. I recently did redeem some Avios to book a flight on Airlink that would have been around $2,000 return if I would have paid for the ticket. Instead, I redeemed 36,000 Avios and about $400 in taxes for the round-trip booking in economy class. I thought that was pretty good value. I'm looking forward to trying it.
Great value. Yeah, no, I'm keen to chat to you about that when you do that.
Yeah. You can also redeem Avios on Qantas domestic and short-haul flights.
Yeah, that's right. So you can redeem Qatar, British Airways, Finnair and Iberia Avios for Qantas due to its Oneworld membership. British Airways is probably the easiest way to redeem redeem Avios for Qantas flights because you can do that online. For Qatar Airways, you have to call up or fill out their form, and we don't recommend doing either, really, if you can just get the same flight through British Airways.
And redeeming British Airways Avios in particular on Qantas short-haul and domestic flights can also be quite good value.
Yeah, so you only need a minimum of 6,000 Avios for short flights in economy, up to 650 miles using British Airways Avios on Qantas. This includes routes such as Canberra to Adelaide, which is right on 604 miles. So it's actually normally 12,000 Qantas. So it's much better deal through British Airways than using Qantas points, for example.
And an even better deal is business class. Because I think like
Yeah.
with Avios, it's what 12,500 Avios for routes
Yep,
like up to
that's right.
650 miles, and with Qantas, it's going to be what's that 27,600 Qantas points,
Yeah. So
and that's before the increase on the 5th of August.
that's true. It's going to be quite expensive when those changes come through, but we'll cover those, I'm sure, later down the track.
Yeah, and a quick tip: if you if you're a Qantas Points Club member, even if you're booking through Avios, if you put in your Qantas frequent flyer number onto the booking, you can earn status credits for that too. Little tip there. With Finnair Plus, you also have access to Finnair Premium Economy Awards, which you can't book through other programs. And I believe you've done that as well.
Yeah, so I recently flew Finnair Premium Economy. I booked through Finnair Plus using the Avios for 43,500 Avios from Helsinki to Bangkok in Premium Economy. You will be able to book Finnair Premium Economy using Qantas points soon. Those changes are rumored to come in around the end of this year, maybe early next year. I'm not entirely convinced it's worth it for the product itself. I wasn't overly impressed with Finnair Premium Economy, but it is a lot better than flying in economy class. And I mean, there's plenty of availability because it's the only way you can book premium economy using points. There's not much competition if you have access to Avios.
Yeah, I did read your review. We'll link to it in the show notes as well if anyone's interested. I think it was the A350 Premium Economy. Like the seats looked okay, there's a bit more space and all that stuff. But is it true that they make you pay extra to get sparkling wine in Premium Economy on Finnair?
Yeah, and it's not like it's cheap either. So they offer a complimentary wine and beer, but sparkling wine was a very specified added cost. You had to pay, I
It's
think it
€12
was,
50 or something.
yeah, it was about
It's the same as
12
an
euros,
economy.
12 euros 50. Yeah,
Yeah, that's like $20 for one like little bottle of it.
which is insane. And I recently flew Air France as well, and a little bit off topic, but they provide champagne for free in economy.
That's cool.
So yeah, and I'm not a big champagne drinker, or not a big drinker in general, especially on planes, and so I only got a small pour, and yeah, you can hate me for that, and rightfully so. But the contrast is pretty astounding, to be honest. Like champagne for free in economy versus sparkling wine um, charged for in premium economy it felt cheap.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. One thing that Finnair does have, though, is a minimum reward seat guarantee, which, they guarantee that on each of their flights, there'll be a certain number of seats available to book using Finnair plus Avios. And British Airways has the same, which is pretty useful. Like if you've got Avios, there's a bunch of seats in economy, premium, and business class that British Airways specifically reserves for its own club members for booking with British Airways Avios. So it gives you a few more options there.
Yeah, that's right. With Finnair, it's not just guaranteed through Finnair Plus, so you can actually use partner Avios and partner airlines to book these seats. But British Airways, you need to have British Airways Avios to book these guaranteed seats.
Yeah, and another useful, I guess, use of Avios would be upgrading as well. Like you can use, I believe, like Finnair Plus Avios to upgrade on Finnair, Qatar Avios to upgrade on Qatar Airways, British Airways Avios to upgrade on British Airways, and so on. Um, that could be particularly useful, I guess, if you're flying Qatar Airways and not on a Virgin Australia flight number, but if you're flying Qatar, like a book through Qatar Airways over to Doha or onwards to Europe. You might be able to get some quite good value upgrades into business class just by transferring some points into Avios.
Yeah, and Qatar uses a calculator for this as well. So, it depends on the route, depends on how many changes how many Avios you'll need. But as we said before, Qatar Airways, their business class product is fantastic. It's a great way to fly, especially for those long flights to Europe.
Yeah, just a quick tip. I think if you upgrade within 14 days of departure, you don't get lounge access on Qatar Airways. So try and do it before 14 days if you can.
Yes, and if you have status, you'll still get your normal lounge access, but you won't get the special lounges reserved for the ticketed passengers. So that's the Al Marjan and Al Safa lounges in Doha, which are well, amazing. We've covered these all previously.
Yeah. Okay. Our listeners might be thinking, all right, I live in Australia. I have Qantas points. I have Velocity points. But like, how do I earn Avios? I mean, all of these airlines are sort of European or Asian airlines. How do you earn Avios in Australia?
The easiest way, obviously, is to fly on Oneworld or partner airlines, or obviously the airline itself, and credit the flights to the particular Avios program. You have to watch out, especially with Oneworld flights, that the fare class that you've booked is eligible for earning Avios, and at what rate. You might get very few Avios if you're flying on Qantas tickets, trying to credit to Privilege Club, for example.
Yeah, but I mean, to get like the 90,000 Avios you need to book a flight to Europe, it's probably going to be a bit of a slow slog doing it through just crediting flights. I mean, unless you're crediting sort of long haul business class flights, but there's other ways as well to earn points in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Australia is blessed with a very good credit card market, I guess, and this you can transfer Amex membership rewards to both British Airways and Qatar Airways Privilege Club. That's at 2-1, which is a very good ratio. You can also transfer City Prestige points, Combank awards, and Virgin Money reward points to Qatar Airways Privilege Club as well. Another good partnership is Pay Rewards. Pay Rewards partners with both British Airways and Qatar Airways. You can transfer it 3-1 there. And so they're probably much more consistent ways of racking up large numbers of points to book your business class awards to Europe from Australia.
Yeah, and you can also just buy Avios, and like a lot of the programs, British Airways, Qatar, Finnair, and Iberia at least all offer regular bonuses and discounts as well during promotions on buying Avios. Some of them have special terms and conditions, like you have to have been a member before the promotion started. So if you're not already a member of these programs, there's no harm in signing up now, getting in early. It's free to join them. And there's a few other conditions that you might want to read up on, like that we've got articles for buying Avios on with Qatar, Iberia, and Finnair on the AFF website. So have a look if you're interested. But British Airways and Finnair also offer subscriptions as well. And I think, as far as I can see, the cheapest way to buy Avios is with a British Airways Club subscription. Is that also what you found, Wilson?
Consistently, yes. These subscriptions are available all the time. And they provide the lowest sort of cents per point value that you're buying. I have seen one promotion from Finnair Plus, which was like 100% bonus, and that was the cheapest I've ever seen Avios. But that hasn't been repeated since. So the subscriptions are a really good way to build your Avios balance. Obviously, it does take a bit of time. It's not quite the same as just buying the points outright, and so you kind of take that trade-off. But if you plan a little bit ahead, they're really good value.
Yeah, I bought a British Airways Avios subscription a few years ago. The subscription is still active. I've kept it like renewing each year, and I guess fortunately for me, I bought it at the old, I guess, a cheaper rate, which has now been grandfathered in. So I'm kind of reluctant to cancel it at this point as well for that reason. Although if you bought a new subscription now, the value is still quite decent. There is a little bit of a risk, of course, because like, as you say, like with an annual subscription, you're you're paying up front, and then you get a monthly deposit of Avios in your account each month. And I guess there's always a risk that by the time you get enough Avios deposited into your account to book the award you want to book, there is a chance that the availability might not be there anymore, or the number of Avios you need might have been increased. So it's like there's a few risks involved with that stuff, but as far as I can see, like at least personally, I've still got good value out of mine. Like I've booked one of those 90K Qatar business class redemptions from Europe to Australia. I'll take that flight later this year, and the other redemption I just talked about, and even like for short haul domestic flights on Qantas, it can be quite good value, particularly on some of those routes just under 650 miles or just under 1150 miles as well, which is the next band up. So something to think about. Now, if you would like to learn more about Avios, we've sort of given a quick summary here on the podcast today, but I will be hosting a webinar on AFF on Thursday, the 12th of June at 8 p.m. And we're going to go into even more detail about Avios and really get into how you can make Avios work for you, especially if you live in Australia. This webinar is available for AFF Platinum members who can attend live. It's included in the Platinum membership, and AFF Gold members can also see the replay after the webinar. If you're a Platinum member on AFF as well, don't forget you also get access to the frequent flyer training courses, which include training courses on British Airways and some of the other programs that sell points and miles. So you can get more information about all of this stuff on the training and upskill your frequent flyer knowledge, and as well as lots of other benefits. So have a look at the Australian Frequent Flyer website if you'd like more information about any of our memberships. And that's all for this episode of Travel Pointers. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Happy flying.
Thanks for listening.